do the sex.
Welcome to Masturbation Monday with me, Annette Benedetti, your host for Locker Room Talk and Chats. This is your invitation to join me for coffee in bed and a candid conversation about the masturbation practice I am developing to support my mental, physical, and emotional health and help manifest my dreams. Masturbation Monday is a guide to self-pleasure, better sex, and using the power of the pussy to open new doors to a better life.
Ring loop.
Today's topic is Peegasms. That's right, Peegasms. We are going to be talking about orgasms that can be caused by peeing, but more so about a phenomenon, an orgasmic phenomenon that many women experience where their orgasms are intensified when they have them on a full bladder. And this is of consequence because during this week's Masturbation Monday session, I was caught off guard by the strength of a orgasm that was had while needing to run to the bathroom because, of course, we do our Masturbation Monday sessions in the morning with coffee in bed. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our libido boosting sponsor, Promescent. Spice things up in the bedroom with their delay spray. It has changed the game for over 500,000 men worldwide. It's like a secret weapon for lasting longer. Just a quick spritz and you're set for a marathon, not a sprint. And it kicks in within just 5 minutes. Plus, it's partner friendly, no transfer, so he can last until she comes. Speaking of the ladies, Promescent's arousal gel gives women an instant sensitivity boost and a whole new level of pleasure with its warming sensation, all while being safe and hormone-free. But Promescent offers so much more. It is your one-stop shop for all things sexual wellness, backed by a ton of medical experts. And they're all about privacy, discreet packaging, free shipping in the US for orders over $20, and a no-risk 60-day money-back guarantee. Best of all, when you visit promescent.com/lockerroomtalk, that's promescent.com/lockerroomtalk, you save 15% off your first order automatically at checkout. That's promescent.com/lockerroomtalk for 15% off. Okay, and on that note, let's dive into the experience of the Peegasm and also the very common phenomena of women having incredible orgasms on a full bladder. Especially while masturbating, because that was my experience. So grab your coffee and get ready to talk about masturbation in bed with me. Cheers. Okay, folks, this week's Masturbation Monday session was a little bit mind-blowing. And before I chose the topic, I had at first thought it was because of the position I was in while masturbating. I was realizing that most often, except for when I'm out in public, scroll back and listen to last Masturbation Monday's topic, I really am kind of like laying on my back, just taking it from myself. But this week, I decided I was sitting up. I was changing things up a little bit. It was in the morning because Masturbation Monday sessions are morning sessions for me. Morning self-love sessions. And of course, I'm having coffee in bed and I'm having my masturbation session. And it is the morning, so inevitably, full bladder happens. But I was feeling lazy and really just wanting to masturbate. And so I thought, I think I'm fine. I started masturbating. And this is not the first time this has happened. But I had the craziest, strongest orgasm, and it was clearly mixed with the pleasure of the sensation of really needing to pee. In fact, there was a moment where I was like, I kind of thought, oh my God, am I gonna pee a little? Because here I am in bed and I don't want my bed messed up. But at the same time, the orgasm was so good, I was like, maybe I'm all right. Maybe I'm all right if I do a little bit, which was all this sort of very vulnerable personal conversation I'm sharing with you in my own mind. But what it did was it led me down a rabbit hole of what the fuck is this all about? This is not the first time it's happened. I've also spoken with other women who will talk about having the same experience, that they love to masturbate on a full bladder because the orgasm is so much more intense. Well, of course, the rabbit hole led me to Peegasms, which is a phenomena of women having held their bladder too long, or so long that when they finally pee, that the pressure causes a peegasm. And I had never heard this term before, but it certainly resonates with me, because I have had some pee sessions where I've just been like the ecstasy, and there is an intense sexual nature to it. Now, of course, the whole Peegasm phenomenon came with a bunch of warnings. You do not want to mess with your bladder, right? And warnings do, like, people don't go holding your bladder and being dangerous with it in sexual situations. So hopefully we all already know to use caution around things like that. But it was interesting to find that probably what's happening with my experience in masturbation is that the pressure from the bladder being full is pushing down on, there are a lot of explanations, whether it's the G spot or the internal clitoris, the sponge. I think they called it the urethral sponge, which I believe in, guys. Hey, I get confused with all the things going on in the vagina as well. I believe the urethral sponge is associated with the G spot, but it was unclear whether they felt it was the G spot that was receiving the pressure or the internal clitoris. But regardless, when the external clitoris is being stimulated and there is this pressure from the bladder on the inside, you're getting what I would, which now makes sense to me, I'm getting sort of a blended orgasmic experience. And let me tell you something. I was sitting in the weirdest position too when I think about this orgasmic moment. I was kind of sitting up, and as usual, I'm surrounded by my pillows to keep me comfortable, one propping up each knee. So I had my feet kind of in a butterfly position. And when I orgasmed, it was so full body that I actually kind of pressed the bottoms of my feet together because I was in that butterfly position. And the nerves in my feet, the bottom of my feet, up through my ankles and into my legs, there was this electric feeling. And I was so aware of it, even as I was experiencing sort of being at the height of my pleasure, that I pressed my feet together again because, like, what is happening? What is going on? I mean, as you can imagine, I had lots of thoughts going on. I'm like, am I going to pee? Is this pee? Because it felt like things were hot and excited. And then I had this, the sparks going through the bottoms of my feet, and my skin was all tingly. So what this is all to say is that I'm going to say, I think that for women out there and vulva owners who have had the experience, or, there are a lot of searches out there. I can see it on Reddit. Like, why does having a full bladder make my orgasm better? That's why. You're getting kind of a blended orgasm experience on some level. That is my read on it. I am no doctor, but it makes sense to me, because that, I think I've told you in the past, as I've talked about how I feel like clitoral orgasms alone are kind of like, yeah, they're good, but they're not like mind blowing. And this orgasm was mind blowing, and I was only doing my own external stimulation. But it is kind of interesting to mix in the whole Peegasm experience. And as I was telling someone that I was going to do a podcast on Peegasms, they hadn't heard about it, but their first response was, this was someone with a vulva that said, I'm telling you, there is something when I've been drinking and I go to the bathroom to pee, that shit feels sexy. And I was like, well, I guess now, we all know a full bladder, well, it can be really awful and uncomfortable. And you should be careful with it. Again, these podcasts always come with warning because there's always going to be someone out there who takes it and runs with it to an extreme. But I mean, the full bladder is in there pushing away at our happy spots. Because as I've been mentioning in our past podcasts, many of the women's pleasure spots other than the clitoris, and I'm talking about the bean, the one that we see, not the internal clitoris, are ignored. Our internal spots, even some of our external pleasure spots around the opening of the vagina, the U spot, which is right under the urethra, they're all pleasure spots that we don't talk about a lot. And all of our stuff is like next to each other. The women's setup is all like, it's all layered on top of each other inside of our body, from like our butt, our butthole, our butthole tube, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. To the vagina, the clitoris, the internal clitoris is in there somewhere. We've got our urethra, we've got our bladder. I mean, it's all stacked on top of each other. And when you're getting sexy and aroused, it's all getting pushed and knocked around and moved, and spots are being lit up. And it can be very confusing for especially people with vulvas and women who we've had so little research and education and open discussion about our pleasure spots and how our bodies work, and why we would also enjoy things like anal sex when we don't have a prostate. Well, we enjoy it because it's up against a wall that has the clitoris, all sorts of things feel good. And when you start to get to know your body and know how some of these different spots affect your experience with pleasure, well, then you can use that knowledge to intensify your orgasmic experience. So I'm not saying to go and like drink a gallon of water before you're going to get laid. That can become problematic. But certainly if you are like me and you wake up in the morning and you want to pleasure yourself and you're like, hey, I want to kick this day off with like I want a real body rocking, soul crushing orgasm. Maybe hold off on hitting the bathroom to pee. Just go ahead and play for a while. And one of the things that I've discovered I really enjoy a lot, I've already mentioned that the U spot is one of my favorite spots, which is right below the urethral opening. I actually prefer it in some way to the clitoris. But really playing with that spot when I'm, when I need to go to the bathroom, when I've got a bit of a fuller bladder, it's extra intense for me and extra orgasmic. Something you might try. So I mean, if we are going to have a masturbation Monday assignment, I think this is a fun one to start with. Again, do not wait till your bladder is so full that you're like in pain. We don't want to hurt our bladder. And also, if you are wanting to play with this and also play with internal penetration, again, monitor how full your bladder is. Let's not go and hurt ourselves. I have not done that yet, although I think I will be doing it. Now, see, here's the tricky part. I know I've been in situations where I'm actually having penetrative sex with somebody and I have a full bladder, and that's not fun. Like, it's just irritating to me. I don't know. And I really will have to meditate. I could be wrong. So to any ex-partner out there who's listening and going, that's not true. One time you had a full bladder and we had sex and you said it was a good experience. Well, A, who knows if I was being honest? Let's be honest. Sometimes us ladies bend the truth in the moment. But B, right now I cannot recall really enjoying a full bladder while being in the middle of penetrative sex. But whatever, in the future, maybe I'll correct myself. But, I think I will. Maybe this week I will try to see what happens when maybe I use one of my internal vaginal stimulating or G-spot stimulating sex toys while have a little bit more of a full bladder. So I am curious. So I have never had a peegasm specifically, meaning I've never just orgasmed from peeing. I've certainly experienced pleasure from it, which is funny. It's not something we talk about a lot. I've also never masturbated while peeing. I guess that could be a thing. Has anyone out there done that who's listening? If so, you know my email, Annette, ANNETTE, at sheexploreslife.com. I guess that throws us back into water sports. We have a podcast on that. Want to listen to that? Head on back to that. But Peegasms aren't actually water sports, I guess, but they could be thrown into water play. So, hey, maybe it's time for me to revisit that topic on the next episode of Locker Room Talking Shots. What do you think? I am curious, though. I would love to hear from some of my listeners about their experience with this experience. Have you or someone you've been with mentioned having an intense orgasm and thinking it was because they had a full bladder or anything around that? I'm curious. Have you integrated that into your sex life? How have you experienced that? Have any of you had a real peegasm? If so, hey, reach out to me. I want to talk to you and I want to know more. So that's what I've got for you for this week. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you have some information I don't have on this experience, so definitely feel free to send it to me. And if you have a question, a topic, something you'd like me to address for our Masturbation Monday session, reach out to me. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions. I want to get you the answers you want. Masturbation Monday has become one of my favorite times of the week, experiences sharing with you. So until next Monday, I'll see you in the locker room. Cheers.
Ring loop.